Mr. Huey's not even charged with taking Delmecia Coppedge's vehicle.
If you think I'm here to play around with y'all, God damn it, I'm not.
All right, Mr. O'Neill, please stop using swearing language.
Well, dang. I guess we'll have to get into that opening statement. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do a blend between the opening statement and the charges that have been levied against Mr. Huey, who happens to be the most charged person in the whole entire YSL indictment. So I don't think many people are familiar with Marquavius Huey, aka Killer. So what I decided to do was take some time out of my day and say, you know what? The people, what do they want to see? And I think this is interesting because he literally has the most counts in the whole entire RICO. So he has 19. Mind you, the next person that we have is with 15, and that's Briss. And I know for a fact that we don't look at Briss like we look at Marquavius Huey. Briss shot a cop. Got a whole attempted on a cop. So let's just go ahead and then take a look. And thank goodness that technology has highlighted stuff for me, because goodness gracious, I would not, and I repeat, I would freaking not want to go ahead and had to do all of this stuff. So let's go through it. So his first count is conspiracy to violate the Racketeer Influence and Corrupt Organizations Act. Then he has armed robbery. Then he has aggravated assault with a deadly weapon. Then he has aggravated assault with a deadly weapon. So he has 2 counts of that. Let's go. He has number 6, possession of a firearm during the commission of a felony. So he missed out on basically murder. The first 6, or really the first 7 ones that pop up, he's the one who doesn't get all of them as far as murder, but he's damn near getting all of them in the first one. 7, possession of a firearm during the commission of a felony. Then let's go down to 14, armed robbery. Then 15, armed robbery. Then 16, aggravated assault with a deadly weapon. Then 17, aggravated assault with a deadly weapon. 18, hijacking a motor vehicle in the first degree. 19, possession of a firearm during the commission of a felony. 20, possession of a firearm during the commission of a felony. 21, participation in criminal street gang. 22, participation in criminal street gang. 23, participation in criminal street gang. We got to go all the way down. Woo! 44, possession of weapon by incarcerated individual. 45, possession of a telecommunication device by incarcerated individual. 46, participation in criminal street gang activity. Now, mind you, I'm going to be fair, square, obvious, and honest. Bruh, the stuff you just got hit with, literally, he just already did. The weapon stuff, well, we won't say the weapon stuff, but possession of a telecommunication device by an incarcerated individual. He just got caught with that last week. So let's go down and, I don't want to say discover, but let's get a little familiar with how it goes for Mr. Marquavius Huey. Because we can admit, right, we like his lawyer. We like Mackin-ass Matthews.
Mr. Marquavius Huey is not a convicted felon. He can sit on a jury. He can own a firearm. He can vote. And he can do what other law-abiding citizens can do as a non-convicted felon.
So I'm not going to read the whole entire thing. I'll just look at the date, and then I'll kind of look at the beginning of it, right? So here we go on 76, the 5th month, 25th day of 2018. So basically they say theft by receiving stolen property, the property of Jeremy Smith, that Huey knew or should have known the property was stolen with intent of depriving Jeremy Smith of said property, a violation of Georgia law.
2018, against Mr. Huey. Also in 2018, they reduced it to misdemeanor disorderly conduct. They gave him 12 months probation, and they agreed to that reduction. This table, this organization, this agency, in 2018. Now, in 2018, they reached that agreement with Mr. Huey. Now here we are in 2022 when this case was indicted, and now in 23 when it's being heard, they're using the same charge that they initially charged him with, of theft by receiving of a handgun. They reduce it down to a little misdemeanor, disorderly conduct. And now they say, hey, let's tell the ladies and gentlemen of this RICO trial that this is an overt act in a RICO conspiracy in a YSL case. That's what they have brought to you in this indictment. The evidence will show that in 2018, this had nothing to do with anything concerning RICO. Because the evidence will show, had it, now keep in mind, the dates, 2013 to even the present, is what the government just told you all yesterday, was this RICO conspiracy. So in 2018, ladies and gentlemen, if this particular overt act has anything to do with a RICO conspiracy today, why did the same agency decide in 2018 that a felony theft by receiving charge, negotiated, agreed to, should get reduced down to disorderly conduct?
I ain't finna do all that. I don't even want to read all that. And then we got right here that he committed the felony offense of armed robbery by taking property of a debit card and some money and jewelry from the immediate presence under another, to wit, Dewan Maynard, by use of an offensive weapon. Now, I'm going to tell y'all this. The reason why we're doing it this way is because it's going to be shocking when you hear the opening statements from Matthews. So here we go again. Firearm used offensively against the person is likely. So basically, they saying that he pistol whipped Dewan Maynard in the face with the firearm, and then upon person, Demond Jenkins, by pointing that toward the direction of Demond Jenkins with said firearm. So you pistol whip one dude and you point the firearm at another. These are all alleged, by the way. We're not saying that he's guilty of any of this stuff, but it has to be said, all right?
Into it a little bit. April 26, 2019, around 12:39 a.m. in the morning, at 741 Morosco Drive, Northeast, Atlanta, Georgia, at this apartment complex called Core Lindbergh Apartments. That's a stock photo of that particular complex. Now, here's the story. The story is that, and we're not disputing that this incident happened. We're disputing that Mr. Huey is ever a part of it. Mr. Huey stands before here. He signed an indictment and indicated that he is not guilty and he is innocent of these charges. And we stand here straight and we look you in the eye and we stand tall that Mr. Marquavius Huey is innocent. So, April 26, 2019, you've got 3 individuals. They have left the apartment unit, and these 3 individuals are walking in the parking deck, right? They're walking to their car. 3 individuals. As they're walking to the car, these 3 individuals, they see 2 black males get out of a vehicle they describe it as a black Mustang with a temporary tag. So these 3 individuals, they're in the parking deck, they're walking to their car, and 2 other individuals get out of the car, and they begin to chase these 3 individuals. There's video surveillance in the parking garage. You will likely see this video surveillance. It's the government's case, and they get to present their case however they choose. If they choose to show you a video, you will see it. Right? Now, let's talk about these 3 individuals that are walking from their apartment to their car. Demond Jenkins, he lives there. He knows the apartment complex. He knows the parking deck. Right? So he lives there. He's familiar with his spot. He's familiar with his crib. Right? So he runs down the parking deck. So he sees them. He's walking. He sees them. He goes down. So he goes essentially left. Okay? That's Demond Jenkins, the apartment lessee, the owner of the apartment. His crib. DeJuan Maynard. DeJuan Maynard is with DeMond Jenkins, right? What does he do? So he's visiting his friend, DeMond Jenkins. DeMond Jenkins has the keys to Maynard's vehicle. Maynard is the one with the jewelry and the items, right? Maynard, he goes right, and he goes up the parking deck, right? And he's running. Now, you've got this armed robbery that is occurring. You've got DeMond Jenkins going left, down the deck. You've got Maynard going right, up the deck. Now, pay close attention. The two perpetrators, they decide that they are going to go after one person, not two, right? This is an armed robbery, right? You've got two perpetrators, you've got three victims. One of those victims goes left, Jenkins, Maynard goes right. Maynard is the one person out of those three that those two perpetrators go after. So you've got two individuals that are the perpetrators chasing Maynard up the parking deck. The third male, I guess he goes down, and he is not chased. He goes down, one goes left, he ducks, the other one, Maynard goes up the deck, the two perpetrators chase Maynard. That's the story, that's how it's happening. Now, the two perpetrators, they reach Maynard. When they reach Maynard, ladies and gentlemen, Maynard, he says when he got hit with, one of them hit him with the firearm, and that they took items. Now, these are the items that Maynard says were taken. This is what he says were taken. He says a ring, a diamond 5-point star ring. He says 2 gold chain necklaces, one with a cross, another with diamonds, 1 pair of diamond earrings, a gold Gucci bracelet, a SunTrust debit card, a Gucci bag, a Louis Vuitton bag, and some cash. So you got all this grouping of items that Maynard says that was taken from him. You've got police officers galore that come over to the scene, right? So you've got responding officers, you've got white shirt officers, you've got sergeants, everybody responding there, trying to figure out what happened. They talked to Maynard and Jenkins, right? They talked to the security guard, Joel Hines. Joel Hines, he says that, I was patrolling the area. I saw this black vehicle had been parked and running for about an hour or so. It had tinted windows, and I couldn't see inside. And, apartment owners, sometimes they'll come sit in their apartment, in their cars before they go inside, so I didn't think anything of it. I didn't see anybody. I didn't get a look at anyone. So the security guard, he doesn't see any individuals that are in the black vehicle. They canvass the parking deck. The officers, they get surveillance videos from the parking garage. So that's what the officers are doing. That's what they did that night, right? Now, here's where it gets interesting, ladies and gentlemen. On April 26, 2019, at 12:39 in the morning, that's when this incident happened. DeMond Jenkins, when he goes left, DeMond Jenkins, who's the apartment owner, when he goes left, he goes downstairs, he runs out, and he happens to see an officer, he flags him down. So that officer's right there, pretty much, right? And then other officers start coming and converging on this incident scene to try to figure out what happened. But on that same day, later that day, Maynard, the one whose items he claims were taken, he does this, I don't know if he does an internet search, what he does. How in the world are millions of social media people that are on social media, Instagrammers, people that have pages, Maynard calls into Zone 2 and he tells the police that he just happened to be scrolling Instagram and he saw a person wearing his diamond 5-point star ring. Imagine that. Less than hours. So what does he do? Maynard calls in. You will hear evidence that when he calls in, that he sends some photographs. I'm going to get to that. So the case is assigned to Detective Jeffrey Henderson on April 28, 2019. So the case now has a detective. A couple days later, Detective Jeffrey Henderson now has this case. What does he do when he gets the case? Well, he gets Maynard to send him these photographs. He views the video surveillance footage that he obtained from the parking deck, from the apartment complex. And he asks him to send some pictures of the jewelry. So send this information that you found on Instagram, send me some pictures of your jewelry, and send me some videos, and let me take a look at the video surveillances that I was able to get from the parking deck. So these are the photographs that Maynard, the victim in the case, he sends Detective Jeffrey Henderson 2 separate Instagram pictures of 2 separate people. On the left there is a picture he sends of someone else, some person in the world on social media. Maynard sends that photograph, and he sends the one on the right. The one on the right is Mr. Huey's Instagram. The one on the left is someone else's Instagram. He sends these to Maynard, to the Detective Henderson. 2 different people with the same ring, or the similar ring, or some ring that looks like the one that he owned the same day. So he becomes his own detective. Now, the video that was obtained from the parking garage, ladies and gentlemen, that video, it shows the 2 perpetrators running after Maynard, right? One of those perpetrators has on like a black jacket and maybe some red pants or something of that nature. The other person has on a gold puff jacket and some black slacks, pants or jeans or whatever. So that's what the video is showing from the parking garage. So what does Detective Henderson do? So he goes on to Mr. Huey's page, and I guess starts scrolling Mr. Huey's page. Oh, Mr. Huey has a gold puff jacket. But guess what, ladies and gentlemen? In this particular, Mr. Huey's is on the right, standing in front of a black Infiniti vehicle that belongs to his lady, Justice Woodard, who is the mother of their 2 children, Major and Journey. On the left is a photograph. You heard Mr. App talk about that huge discovery that was sent to us. The evidence will show that that particular photograph is part of the discovery that came to us in this pile of evidence that is a part of this case. That on the left are 2 young men. And what's interesting here, ladies and gentlemen, is that apparently that year, the gold puff jacket from Zara was a very popular item for young people as part of their wardrobe. We know that because you're going to learn that this is what was sent to us, and that is what was going on with the dress back in 2019. 3 different people with the same gold puff jacket that was provided to us in discovery, that the government provided to us. So the gold puff jacket is relevant here. Why? Because what was Detective Jeffrey Henderson's investigation at that point? Maynard sends him these 2 hands with the similar jewelry. Maynard sends him a piece of jewelry of his own to say, hey, you know, this is what was one of the items that was taken from me. And the video, ladies and gentlemen, from the apartment complex shows a person with that similar gold puff jacket. And what does Detective Jeffrey Henderson do with that information, ladies and gentlemen? He completes it. He completes his investigation. This happened on April 26, 2019. 4 days later, he gets warrants for Mr. Huey's arrest on that investigation. That is the case.
So basically, what is it, October? He basically taking property, an iPhone, from the immediate presence of another, Gary Holloman, by the use of an offensive weapon, basically meaning he had the strap on him, and then right down on the bottom part, snatched the 2016 lacrosse from the person of Gary Holloman by force and violence. So we'll get into that too, because there is an actual audio call of that. And then these are all the same day, same thing. So then taking the iPhone, or a woman that was with him or something like that. So Delmisha Coppage by use of an offensive weapon.
Gary Holloman, who's no longer with us, ladies and gentlemen. Gary Holloman sold pills for a living. He was a drug dealer. And Mr. Huey had gotten injured. And his injury was the result of a shot to his leg, and being out in the public and living in the area, there was a shooting incident. He got shot. Okay? When he got shot, he ran out of the ability to get medicine the right way. So what did he do? He found that this guy Holloman that he knew through this other person, Mender, that Mr. Holloman sold Percocets. So what happens? He'd been dealing with Mr. Holloman for some period of time. You're going to hear about it. And how do you know you're going to hear about it? Because when Detective Henderson comes into this courtroom and sits in this witness stand, I'm going to ask him questions about it. Now, Huey knows Gary Holloman because they have been doing business. Mr. Holloman purchased 2 or 3 pills periodically, $20 a pop, Percocets. And he dealt with Holloman various occasions. Nothing unusual. I'm going to meet you. I'm going to call you, right? He calls him. Huey calls Holloman from time to time, right? And when he calls Holloman from time to time, Holloman, in fact, you will learn through Henderson that Henderson, when they arrested Mr. Huey on these charges, they sit Mr. Huey down in an interview room. And when they sit Mr. Huey down in an interview room, Henderson reads him his rights. And Mr. Huey agrees to talk with him without an attorney. Because I don't have anything to hide. I'm okay talking to you without a lawyer. He sits down, talks to him. And Mr. Huey, he didn't know specifically why he was even being arrested at that moment. And you'll hear about it, right? And when you hear about it, Henderson is saying, hey, somebody's saying that you carjacked him. Okay, tell me about it. What are you talking about? And then Huey and Detective Henderson, Huey says, okay, so you're talking about the street's been talking. The street's been talking. They saying that I set Holloman up. They saying I set Holloman up. I didn't set Holloman up. I deal with Holloman. I didn't set this man up. Holloman chose this particular location for us to meet, and we've met before. I know this man. In fact, now here's where it gets real interesting. In fact, Huey says to to Henderson, Detective Henderson, you can look through my phone. So, Henderson looks through the phone. And what does he see, ladies and gentlemen? He sees a...
Your Honor, we're going to object to this portion of self-serving hearsay.
Yes, the evidence will show.
I'll overrule the objection.
The evidence will show, ladies and gentlemen, that Henderson, they have the phone out. Huey is leaning over. Henderson has the phone. They're scrolling. Okay. 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 But the warrants had already been written up. He was in jail. He was arrested that night. He was being arrested for it on the 24th of November, 2020. But Mr. Huey shows Mr. Henderson that he and Holloman had a relationship. You got something I want, you got something that I want to get, some Percocets, they're available. That was our relationship, right? Now, that's what Huey says to Henderson, and is corroborated in a phone that belonged to Mr. Huey that Henderson was allowed to look at on that particular morning when they arrested this man. So that's what came out from Mr. Huey. Let's talk about what came out from Mr. Holloman when he called 911. So what does Holloman basically say in the 911 call? He says that I just got robbed, and he says my nephew homeboy robbed me. My nephew's homeboy robbed me. That's what he says. And I was meeting with him because my nephew wanted me to give him some money to put on my nephew's books at the Fulton County Jail. That's what Holloman says to 911. Now, you're going to ask yourselves, ladies and gentlemen, the evidence is going to show that you don't need to give money to your nephew's homeboy to put on your nephew's books at the Fulton County Jail. The evidence will show there are many ways in which you can put money on somebody's books at the Fulton County Jail instead of giving money to your nephew's homeboy. So, you are going to have to reconcile that story that my man Holloman told 911. And in the 911 call, he didn't say, that's what he said, my nephew's homeboys, I'm putting some money, giving money to giving some money to my nephew homeboy. That's what he said. So you're going to reconcile those. You're going to have to balance those two versions of events. You're going to have to ask yourself, and here's the other thing you're going to learn with this same case. You're going to learn that Mr. Holloman tells Mr. Henderson that Mr. Huey didn't have a firearm. And he's going to say, whatever he's going to say from my understanding is somebody just walked up out of the dark and put a stick on him and took his car, not Mr. Huey. What is Delmisha Coppage? Delmisha Coppage, you're going to learn that she actually lived at 250 Fulton Street, right? And that Mr. Holloman was there to meet her, right? And you're going to learn from Delmisha Coppage, if they decide to call her as a witness, that they interviewed Delmisha Coppage in September of 2022. Shortly after they indicted this case that we're here today on, they decided to go out and, do their field interviews of their alleged victims and talk to them. In September of 2022, Delmisha Coppage tells Officer Investigator Viverito, she tells this law enforcement person that, yeah, they took BG's car, Gary Holloman, BG. They took BG's car, and they also took my car, the one left in my car. You will hear that. And there had been no information, allegations of her car ever being taken on October 1, 2020 until September 22nd, 2022, when she told it to Investigator Viverito. Mr. Huey's not even charged with taking Delmisha Coppage's vehicle. Why would she say something like that? So you all, as the triers of fact, fancy little phrase that we use in the legal business, you all, as the deciders, will have to determine with whom you will believe.
Down to November 16, 2022. where he basically said that he told Justice Woodard that she would see him in court. Huey stated, "You'll die if you put the police on me." That's insane for him to do, but all right. So terroristic threat, and let's keep on going. Marquavius Huey, Tanquarius Mender, Jeffrey Williams conducted a recorded video call while Tanquarius Mender was an inmate at Fulton County Jail. Said vehicle call being recorded in the normal course of business, and during the call, Mender stated he needed something. Mr. Williams pointed to Huey, take care of it, and flashed Mender a YSL gang sign, an overt act. Okay. Okay. Sure. Then Marquavius Huey and Jeffrey Williams, associate YSL, post for a photo released on social media. Apparently that's breaking the law right there, from lockdown to a jet slap biz. All right. So then Marquavius Huey and Jeffrey Williams communicated when Huey said, "You know I'm ready to handle the business and go sit down if I got to about any one of y'all on my mama." Which, I don't want to say this, but I'll say it. If he was offered a plea deal and he didn't take it, can they bring that up? I don't know. But the man who had 19 freaking counts of this, I don't know. So, February 18, 2022, Marquavius Huey and Tanquarius Mender, associates YSL, they commit the felony offense of possession of a weapon by an inmate. When while incarcerated at the Fulton County Jail, they possessed an illegal weapon pursuant to what is shanked beyond the guard lines of violation of Georgia law. So, it didn't say shanks, it just said a shank, which means it was in there and nobody said the other person did. All right? So, Marquavius Huey and Tanquarius Mender both basically they found this stuff in a jail cell. Possessed a telecommunications device. So remember, when they don't make it plural, when they don't say devices, then, you know, that right there is just somebody not telling on the other. When while incarcerated at the Fulton County Jail, did possess without authority a communication device, to wit, a cell phone. And then we basically know where that came from, because that was the freaking one that the officer had. So basically, that's it. That's all from what I see. Now, he's going to get found guilty on the cell phone stuff. The shank and all that stuff and everything like that, previous stuff, I have no idea on. Because at the end of the day, we just don't know. If you have both of them in there and both of them saying it's not mine, all right, then it seems like none of them said it's his, it's his. So we have that part to deal with. But add it with the fact of this. What the hell does having a cell phone in a jailhouse have to do with anything with a damn RICO? This is gonna be honest with y'all. Like, I don't see it. I don't get it. It doesn't make any sense to me unless they can say, "Oh, well, he was putting hits on people and all that stuff throughout the jail and all this crap and everything like that," which they don't allege. So that's not gonna happen. How they can further make sure that they get him pent for the cell phone is that basically had a cop come through and testify under full immunity. Just is what it is. Because if they call her up and they subpoena her to testify in this case, which I'm assuming they will, all she has to do is plead the fifth. I mean, it's against incriminating herself. That's what the fifth is for. So 100% she'll say the fifth. But they'll probably run it this way. They'll get the actual other cop who told on him and her and stuff like that. And I really believe the reason she got turned in by the inmates is because somebody wanted to, and she wasn't going to give it up, which I ain't going to hold you. She should have. I know I ain't supposed to say that, "Oh, no, she shouldn't be hopping against her will." You're right. But this is business. You also shouldn't be providing cell phones and drugs and weaponry to people. So it is what it is. You got to cover your tracks. But that's her choice, and her body, her choice. So I support that. Either way it go, I don't know if it's going to be said, but it looks bad. But when we hear Matthews explain it, it doesn't look that bad at all. For him to be the most charged individual in the whole entire indictment, and shout out to the whole Matthews freaking law firm down there in Stone Mountain, because, bruh, I would have looked at them charges and would have been like, "Nah, not me, hell nah." But I don't know. Maybe he knows somebody there or something like that. Somebody from his family got represented by him, and they thought he did good work, and he probably was like, "I'm up for the challenge. F it, why not?" So you have that that goes on, and we're just gonna be fair. If I'm Marquavius Huey, I'm praying that it's not death by 1,000 cuts. That's what a lot of lawyers, and I'm not a lawyer, but including myself, I stand with them, where I think it's a death by 1,000 cuts. Like, everybody who sees this whole entire indictment and all the freaking people who sign plea deals and all of this crap, if they don't get a chance to read them, just on the surface, if you say, I got 27 people that are charged with a RICO, and literally 18 of them, I believe the number is 18 or 16, went ahead and signed plea deals and got up out of there, I'm going to assume that basically it might look bad for them 8 that's about to stand for them charges. That's just me. But then when you look at how some of this stuff is tied into it, we don't believe it. See, what happened in the beginning was public intrigue. And then we took on face value that, bro, if they built a RICO on Young Thug, with a name like Young Thug and the rep that we was hearing in interviews and all this stuff, his ass is grass. Then we got into it. Then we got deeper into it. Then we seen people go to jail for basically not testifying. Then we seen judges get thrown off cases. Well, a judge thrown off the case. Then we seen a lawyer, a high-profile lawyer, get arrested. So we had all that crap go on. And it's a damn shame. But it's needed. Marquavius Huey, his charges are needed because, regardless of anything, like Matthew said, he's not a convicted felon. When y'all sat up there and gave him the doggone charges, y'all dropped the first one to a misdemeanor. And fun fact, kids, when you used to get caught with a gun, it actually was a misdemeanor. Then sweeping laws came in and changed it. Don't believe me? Look it up. So you had that crap that happens. And it's all needed because at the end of the day, it's going to be said that everybody will have to re-examine how they handle their business. Plea deals are bad. It just is what it is. For the most part. Not all the time. Not all the freaking time. But majority of the time, plea deals are bad in certain instances like this one. Who would have known that somebody being caught with a gun, dropped to a misdemeanor, would turn around and basically be a part of a RICO case and you really didn't get caught doing anything with it? Now, I would say, if you don't have a felony and you in these streets or whatever the hell you want to call it and all this shit, why don't you want to have your gun license? What in the hell is wrong with you morons to the point where y'all can wake up, figure out ways to make money, figure out ways to get your driver's license, some of y'all, not everybody, figure out ways to do all this shit, but not figure out ways to stay out of jail for laws that you can absolutely just go ahead and live with? Do you morons ever get it? Do you idiots ever understand that your 20s are gone in a flash? That your 30s are right around the corner? That your 40s is what makes you a man? That your 50s is where you build your legacy? And your 60s is where you're the one who speaks the most wisdom? And your 70s, you just live for yourself. Hard to say that out loud, but it is what it is as a man in his 30s. But it is what it is. When we're sitting back and we're looking at this whole entire case, we had to all learn. Stop believing all this bullshit about people are guilty, unless we absolutely just see a crime that just happens. But also at the same time, stop believing that the state, that the city, that anything, whatever county, is in it for justice. Because if that was the case, why are we holding press conferences on arrest and not press conferences on convictions? Y'all ever get that? Why not release a press statement that says, we have a person of interest, we're going to try that individual, and we'll let you know down the road? Things to think about, bro. Because if we can publicly convict you before everything, the facts don't matter and the end doesn't matter. We can go back to the Duke lacrosse team where this freaky lady decided to say, hey, all these dudes that I slept with, they all took it from me. And it turns out that didn't happen. Remember with Kobe Bryant? Just messed with a slut that tried to get him for his money. But these people, there are still individuals who will sit up there and castigate these people. So the question becomes to you, and I'm asking you, are you going to allow public opinion to sway you? Now, I will say this. As bad as we think the DA is, will we look at every case with the DA and say, hey, that case is tainted? Or are we going to say case by case? That's the scariest thing that's happening in this case, or one of the scariest things, is that these men are being subjugated to some very harsh things, criticism, jailing, rights being taken, but we don't know what we don't know. Not once in this case have you ever heard anybody plead out any sympathy for the victims. It wasn't just Donovan Thomas who was murdered. So I would leave that with you guys to think about as you enjoy the rest of your Sunday. Was Marquavius Huey guilty? More than likely not. But Marquavius Huey isn't guilty because he didn't do it. Marquavius Huey wouldn't be guilty based on a lack of evidence and a horrible, horrible damn standard of police practice and investigations. So if he really did do it, the shit that we seen, that we heard from Matthews in the beginning, during that, doesn't make sense. You did no lineup, so you couldn't have them point the person out. You literally had a drug dealer not even point the individual out because he thought he had somebody. Then while Huey was under arrest, because remember, Huey was already in jail, fighting all this shit already. So that turns around, and then what he does in jail is what a lot of people get caught in jail for, cell phones and shanks, because we've seen all the prison channels go up. And one thing that I have yet to hear a prison channel say, and I'm not saying it hasn't happened, I've never heard a prison channel ever say, the gang says you have to get a shank and a knife, a shank and a cell phone in order to be a part of the gang. No, the gang spreads wisdom and sagacity and says you might want to get one to defend yourself, which means because the gang cannot. But I'll catch y'all tomorrow. Share to keep your people aware. Subscribe to let us stay notified, and I'll catch you on the next one.